All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Shapiro. I'm working with the Comptroller's Office on our new project. Thank you for joining us this morning. I just want to do a couple housekeeping items before we get started. If everybody could please put themselves on mute, that'll help the presenter and we'll be able to hear everybody. The meeting is being recorded and we will be able to post online. So in case any of your colleagues missed something, or if you want to go back and refer to it, once we have it up on the Comptroller's YouTube channel, we'll send the link out. And as we go through the presentation, please feel free to ask questions as we go along. Please use the raise the hand icon, which is next to your name. And that way we'll be calling people one at a time and make sure that everybody's questions get answered. And again, please, if you put yourself on mute right now, as we're about to get started, that would be great. When you have questions, when I call your name, then you can obviously take yourself off mute to ask the questions. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jeff Kelly.
Hi, Joe. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Just a couple of quick comments to give you a sense of where we are and what we're doing. This meeting is really one that was generated and in many ways requested by you guys. Now that we've begun our controlled rollout or our go live of a portion of our alcohol system, our licensing and tax processing system, we've been getting inundated with questions about these forms. I know we've met a couple of times previously, and we talked about all these things that were going to happen. And now that it's happening, there are some questions. First, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about our release, our rollout. It started on July 6th, and I kind of envision it like turning on a spigot, but not turning it on all the way. On July 6th, we turned it on partially and let some certain things start happening. And each week on July 13th, we opened it up some more and brought some more features on. And we've done the same this week. And what's happened is it's gone very well. There have been little bugs here and there that our contractor has been very quick to correct for us, or is in the process of correcting along the way. And I'd say from our perspective, where we were initially prepared, we were excitedly prepared perhaps, but not sure what to expect. I think what our experience has been over the last almost 2.5 weeks now is we're very optimistic that this is going to be a terrific program for us, and continuing to get better, it will end up being a great program for you. So having said that, thanks again for being here. Today, this is going to be, I think, a little less of a presentation and more responding to what your questions, concerns, and issues are. The first thing we will do is go over what appears to be a new form, our Form 30, which is really just a combination of a variety of schedules from before. So it's not that it's so much a new form, it's that we've combined several other forms to make this one. And not every element of it necessarily will apply to everybody. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we'll go over that form in a little bit of detail. And then after that, the rest of this presentation will be driven by you guys, your questions. You are going to have some experts here. You're going to have all of our experts here. So please ask the questions. Don't think that any of them are silly. They're not. Don't think they're stupid. They're not. Ask the question. Take advantage of the people that we have here to get your specific concern or issue done. Having said that, our panel of experts is Gina Wickman from Compliance, Michelle Knight and Denise Davis from Revenue Administration, and our own Lou Berman from Field Enforcement. Having said that, I will turn it over to Gina and Michelle and Denise to start with the Form 30. Joe, I don't know if we're going to go directly to them or if you needed to intercede in the middle, but thank you again, everybody, for being here. Please ask questions. Make good use of this time. We want to help. Thanks, Joe.
Hello, everybody. This is Michelle. I am going to share the returns. Can you see my returns, the returns yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Now can you?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So this is the 30, and this is for beer and Vivity. So the schedules used on the Brewery 376, the Beer Wholesaler 37, and the Resident Non-Resident Dealer Beer were consolidated into one. And the instructions on the 30 are separated by form type. So that should help you if you're filling out the brewery return or the wholesaler or the non-resident dealer. And then the 30, it has standard packages listed at the top here. And those packages, you would just put in your total. So this is not new. This is what we were doing previously. And then you have a page 2, which is custom packages. So you would put your package here and do the same thing. And then at the bottom, you would put your conversion factor and multiply. And then, of course, your instructions on the back. You have your form 037, your 324, and then your 376. And then it explains how you would fill it out. So at this time, we can start with any questions that you have. And I think Denise is going to try and answer them for you.
We have a chat question, Michelle.
Okay.
What forms were consolidated? Someone's asking.
So it was the schedules for the 376, the 037, and the schedule for the 324, which was the 323. So on the 37, you had the 370, the 037-5. And then on the 376, you had the 376A, the 376D, and then the 323. All of those were consolidated into the 30.
Okay, so we were pointing this. Is this a question for us? Or is someone not muted? Okay, so Michelle just went over the 30 form because we thought that one, we did get a number of questions about that, people thinking that that was an additional form instead of a replacement form. So we wanted to clarify that up first. And now that was one of the biggest changes. If there are individual questions about specific forms, please, I think as Joe said, raise your hand or let us know and we can call on you and get your questions answered.
I can move on to the 376.
Looks like we're getting some in chat, Michelle.
I can't see any of it.
I'll tell them to you. It's Patrice, and it says, what is the deadline for starting to use the form MD 30?
We would like them to be started immediately.
Are there any other questions about the 30? Again, it's a replacement form for forms that you're already using. We've got questions asked. Okay, so I can hear myself on somebody else's mic. Are we muted? Okay. Michelle, can you see the chat?
I cannot. Okay.
So I'm not sure if my voice is echoing, and I hope everyone can hear this question, but if you're not actually speaking right now, if you could mute, it would be very helpful.
I can see the chat now.
Okay. It would still be very helpful for everyone who's not speaking to mute their mic, please.
Whoever's the admin should be able to mute everybody.
Okay, so when the chat it says, we're not forcing everyone to go online to file their return. It would be really nice once the new forms are out there, if you went out and looked at them. And it would be easier for you to, start filling them out online. Each time something is changing, it's making it better and better. So, with the new forms that we have now and the consolidation, it has made it a little bit easier and we think a little better in the way that we're capturing things. And then these new forms are also going to be in the alcohol e-file. They're not there yet, but they will be. And once that is available and you start going out there and filing there, then it'll automatically go into our system and for all the processing. And then eventually we will move into what we call the portal, where you will be able to go and file your return electronically right into the system itself. And it should look closer to what the form looks like. And the forms are available now, and they are on the comptroller's website. You would just go to, I'm going to pull it up right now. It won't let me pull it up. So anyway, you would go out to the comptroller's website, and then you would click on business taxes. And then when you click on business taxes, you'll scroll down to forms, and then you'll say all business forms. And then once you get there, then you'll click on alcohol. And then it'll be separated into wine or beer. And then you would click on each one of those that you wanted.
I'm going to interject here. Everyone's probably clear on this. This is marylandtaxes.gov is where where you're going to find these. We probably should read the questions just in case anybody else is not necessarily looking at the chat, so that they know what we're answering here. And someone has asked if the form 30 replaces 37-2. 37-2 is a recapitulation of beer deliveries in gallons to retailers by political subdivision. So the 30 is not replacing the 37-2. The 37, I want to say it was the -5.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so then we did answer where you get the forms, and that was Michelle answering, is it all done online? Okay. It seems like everybody's using the chat option instead, Michelle, of just talking into their mic. So we need to see if we can keep up with this.
Right.
So we're going to back up here a little bit because I think we answered this, but just making sure everybody's clear what the question is to apply. This answer applies to. Someone is asking, where do we get the form? So we've just said it's marylandtaxes.gov. Is this all done online now? And for those of you that are familiar with alcohol e-file, that is your online portal, but we are still working on the back end of the forms, right, Michelle, as far as the major changes?
Yes. So the major changes will go into the alcohol e-file that we have now, which is not really the portal. And we are working into getting, I think it's a couple years down the road that it'll be our integrated system that we have now that we're working on. They'll be able to go and file electronically through that. But right now, we do have the alcohol e-file on the website that they can file returns. They are the old forms still, but they are working on getting the new forms into the alcohol e-file that's out there. And I am expecting them to be out hopefully within the next month.
So the next question was, will we still have the option to e-file? And that is yes. E-file is open and working. So by all means, you are welcome to continue to use e-file if you're already using it, and please go and investigate it if you are not already using it. The next question is the only big change the consolidating to Form 30, or are you also forcing everyone to go online to file? Again, that's an option for you that we hope to make a package that is so good that you will be encouraged to use it. The technology's here, and we are working to fine tune it on our end to make it easier for you to file your tax returns by doing it electronically versus the old paper forms. So it's not a force for you, it's an option for you at this point in time. Okay, the next two questions were when the forms are available and where do we find them? So we've answered those already. If we e-file, will these be available or required if I use e-file system for July's returns in August? So as Michelle just said, this is coming and it could be going online. We're testing at this point in time. So whatever is in e-file, obviously you are able to use that and we will process your tax returns from the e-file system. The next question on here is, why did the state feel that it needed to update the old form? The detailed report of in-state, out-of-state, cash and samples returns. And I'm thinking that you're talking about the 376. Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's the 030, the in-state. That's when we were looking at the other day. So all we did was combine some of the schedules together. We haven't had, when you're saying in-state, I know that some of you write in-state at the top or out-of-state at the top, but we've been using schedules for many years now, and you would put the schedule number in there. So we really haven't changed from that. Just there are some of you that have been using the old forms.
And if I could add to that, it's also, it works for you to categorize those things in that way. The in-state portion that you're calling in-state is simply our Schedule D. That's the information that you're capturing in the Schedule D, and the Schedule D still exists. You're simply putting that information on the Form 30. There were a lot of reasons that we needed to update the 376 that I think all of the users of the 376 could attest to it not being in line with the information that we were asking you for as related to the TTB forms that you were using. So we hope that this better captures your activity from information that you're already capturing for your TTB forms as well, and that will go together. And this could be very individual. As I think Jeff said in the opening, all of the lines do not apply to everyone's business model. And so to the extent that we can help you all individually understand what you would be putting where, Michelle, Denise, and I are available to answer those questions. You want to move on to the next one, Michelle?
Yes.
For August, how do we file these forms? Can you please take us through the process to file and pay online, confirming e-file will be up and going for August with correct forms? So if you use e-file at any time, those forms, that is how we will process your return, because it is on our end, we're trying to fine tune and make sure there are no glitches in the processing of the new forms in e-file. So you are welcome to use e-file right now. walk through the process, Michelle?
I'm sorry, what was that, Gina?
They're asking to file the forms. I think, Jessica, are we understanding this question clearly? Maybe you could unmute your mic and ask us so that we can know that we're reading this correctly. Okay, I'm not sure if they could hear that. We're inviting you to come on mic and tell us that we're getting you clearly here. August, how do you file the forms? The same way you've been filing. We are asking you that, as Michelle pointed out, many people have forms that they've had for years saved to their computer, and they just pick up, what they've been using. And we've updated the form, so we would like you to go, if you're using a paper version or the PDF versions that are on our website right now are the forms if you are actually emailing us or mailing us paper forms. Do I hear someone wanting to speak? Okay. So filing in the same way that you've been filing, but we would ask that instead of using the version that you have saved for however long, to go on the marylandtaxes.gov and get the updated forms to submit the same way you've been submitting. And the instructions for each file, you again at marylandtaxes.gov, you are able to hit the link and it walks you through each step, building your schedules and then forwarding that information to the primary form. And then there is a separate link to pay online as well. And Michelle, they find that in the same place when they finish their return, correct?
Correct. There is a link there that when they click on, it'll take them to the direct debit to be able to go through the process of filing the paying by direct debit.
Okay. There's a request to answer the questions in the chat so that we can share, that can be shared post meeting. I think Joe said that this would also be available post meeting, the recording. I think we've answered this. If file on July, use what's on e-file, that is correct. E-file is viable. The new forms are now available. So we have some answers coming into the chat right now for those that are also reading the chat. And yes, is there an option to pay online? Yes, that is true. The next question is, so what is the first month that the Form 30 is required? Now that we've updated the forms, we would like for everyone to start using them now in real time for the next returns that you are processing, which would be your July activity. Great job, Lanita. For those that needed to read those answers, they're saying thank you for that.
Where did you go?
You see this one? So we have to file out the brand new 376 and Form 30, but do not have to do the 376D or the 37-5.
Correct. The 376D is now the 030, and so is the 037-5 is the 30. Yes, it's still one form per distributor. So when you're filling out the Schedule 30, just make sure that you only have one per distributor on there.
So we have the question about the carrier that came up the other day, Michelle?
Yes, you can take that one.
If so, who is carrier? So as we mentioned in the beginning of this is a consolidation. The 30 is replacing several different schedules which were predominantly set up the same way with a few small distinct differences. And the carrier is one of the entries that we were collecting from our indies and RDs. Did I say that correctly, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay, so it got transferred over to this form, and it is required information that you do have, and typically we see that in audit when we come in to look at your records for the breweries. So what we're asking here, it's not going to prevent your form from being processed, but we would like for you to have that available to us still. And if you have the carrier information included, your form will still be accepted and processed if you not have all of those filled out for now. Going forward with our electronic filing, though, we will likely be collecting that data. So we would like for everyone to be prepared to provide that as is required by the regulations now that you only accept and use properly permitted transportation sources. Okay. I'm hoping that I get that. If we didn't answer something completely, please pipe in and say, let us know. We would be happy to add more. So using e-file, do we still put taproom sales on a form? I thought that one was going to come up, Michelle, Denise?
Yes. Yes. When you're
So-
doing alcohol e-file for now, yes, you would still put that on the 376D. Eventually, once the new forms get in there, you will not be using that. As you can see on the 376 form, the line 15A is your taproom sales on-site consumption.
Can you scroll down on that form a little bit? I think it might be too far on the bottom for people to see. Okay.
Can you see my cursor when I move it?
Yes.
Okay.
So now the taproom sales will be a keyed in figure as Michelle is showing everyone. And again, speaking to how obsolete our prior forms were, those forms predated the taproom existence. And so now that we have almost everyone serving directly to consumers as a business model, we didn't have, our forms were not sufficiently set up to capture that information, and we needed to capture it. So again, one of the reasons why the 376 form needed to be revised to the extent that it is, and you will see that going forward, that information is going to go into a keyed figure here on line 15 instead of a schedule. Will there be letters sent to businesses informing and advising them to go to the website to file using the new forms? We sent out a notice when, Michelle? That notice went out, I believe, or did it not? Did we?
It did go out. It did go out a month ago.
So that was the industry's notification of the changes that we made. That letter was to indicate or to advise everyone that the forms were revised and now available on our website. And as we stated already, we would like for everyone to now update their forms with the current forms that are on marylandtaxes.gov for alcohol. Will you guys be sending out directions to everyone in writing? I'm going to say that's everyone doesn't have the same question. So
Right.
as far as your reporting, it's going to be the same way you've always been reporting. In terms of the forms will have instructions accompanying the form. So if you have a question about what goes in any particular field, that will be in the instructions. But the process materially is not changing in that if you are currently filing by emailing us your returns, you'll continue to do that. If you are using e-file, you will continue to do that. We do encourage everyone to try e-file. We do understand that there are some pieces for the larger suppliers or wholesalers and that it's not as easy. And that's why we still have these other options, but we hope to be making those improvements that you will see, and that will encourage you to use the electronic version as we work out, making that a smoother transition for everyone. There was some discussion of moving to quarterly filings, especially for those of us who have been filing quarterly with the feds for some time now. Sorry if this is off topic. No problem. As Jeff said, no off questions. We were very aware, again, of that disconnect between our previous 376 and its reliance on the TTB forms, and the fact that you were not in tandem with the reporting to the TTB and to the state. So we tried to remove that obstacle at this point in time. With the new form, you're not basing it on your TTB, you're basing it on your activity. So at this point in time, we are not discussing the quarterly, but that doesn't mean that it's off the table. We're getting a please move to quarterly. That's going to be beyond our forms and compliance, but we'll certainly take that to note. The request for quarterly filing. A class 5 beer producer form 30 replaces 376 and 376D, but still have to fill out 37-2, correct? 37-2 is your recapitulation. And this is for your manufacturer's hat, just in the county of your brewery, that you're letting us know, that you're capturing the sales that are happening in the tap room on that form. Okay, we've got a class 8 brewery will now be required to complete what forms? Michelle or Denise, you want to take that?
For the class 8, they're still, let me think, the brewery, they still have to fill out the same forms, the 376.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the 376. So nothing's changed on the classes of what they have to do. We've just changed some of the required forms. So if you filed a 376 before, you'll still need to file the 376.
And you'll fill out the 30 in place of the schedules.
Yes, yes.
Do the 37-2 to account for those sales in that county from your class 8 brewery.
Right. I did want to go back up on the question that said, so as a class 5 beer producer, form 30 replaces the 376 and 376D. It does not replace the 376. It is only replacing the 376D for the class 5 and E if you had any out of state.
Good catch, Denise. Yes, that's for anyone, any class. The 376 is your primary form, and everyone will be doing the primary tax return. The 30 is a schedule that is the backup to the primary form. The 376D, I think we had a D, E, and an F.
Yes.
Who we're filling out. And again, the industry was not all calling them D's, E's, and F's. They were calling them in states and out of states and other tap room and various other names, but they do correspond with the D for your distribution to wholesalers in the state of Maryland, the F for your out-of-state distributions. What was the other one? E? I'm sorry, the E was your out-of-state distributions.
Right.
And then the F were other distributions. Okay, the next question is, many wineries and distilleries and wholesalers can already file quarterly. I believe that happened a couple of years ago when we had the filing frequency change, Michelle and Denise.
Yes, that was for the wineries, the wine, and that was through, I thought through legislature. I didn't think that we ourselves could make that choice.
Well, no. It was a regulatory change that we, yes.
Okay,
So I believe that came out at that time, but it's been a while now. And I think that just a refresher, everyone, there was a regulatory change that allowed wine and distilled spirits.
right.
Filing frequency was changed for those two alcohol types, and beer was not included in that.
That's what I meant, that it was done through legislature and beer wasn't included.
Yes.
You can't just make that decision.
So, yeah. Allowing for quarterly is certainly, as I said, you've requested that. This is the next question here, to allow for quarterly reporting. And I'm thinking that this is from a brewery standpoint. Again, that is definitely something that we will take. It's not on our decision making. It's a legislative thing, because I believe in the regulations, your filing frequency is listed there. So again, we will take that to the people that would be addressing that. Certainly hearing your requests for quarterly filing. Okay. So another, again, a very strong request for quarterly filing. I'm assuming again for breweries, because we've already got that in place for wineries and distillery, or wine and distilled spirits in many cases. So we will definitely look into that. Show us the forms as we talk about them. So the form that's right here is the form 76 that we were speaking about. Michelle, it started with the 30 to show that schedule change.
So it says that asking about changes for the wineries. So on the 034 form, there were small changes. So you no longer will be filling out the 34.3 and 3E. You're going to be filling out the 034.1. And I'm sorry.
The 34.2 and the 34.3.
Okay, the 34.2 and the 34.3 is no longer, and it was consolidated to the 034.1. So this is the form that you will be filling out for that.
So again, these forms, these previous schedules all asked for the basic same information. We had a date of the transaction, an invoice or some identifier, and then the information of the entity that either supplied you or that you sold to. And then we asked for your gallons of that transaction. Those were on several different forms with basically just different titles. So we consolidated that. And then what's going to happen is you'll pull this one form. You will determine for us on that second box at the top there, the schedule type that this is the information is representing. So those stay the same. Your D1s for your acquisitions, D1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s will stay the same. For your dispositions, your E's and F's and all the G's that are currently on 34 will remain. You'll simply designate that in the schedule box here.
Gina, I'd like to just say one thing about that. We have removed the Schedule G4 for breakage. You do not need to fill out a schedule. If you have breakage, you simply write it, enter it on line 29 on the 034. You do not submit a backup schedule 034-1 for breakage.
I think it was also the G3 for, wasn't that return for bottling?
Yes, G3 and G4 then are not required backup schedules, but it is a fill-in for line 28 and 29. If you have it, you just key it.
And just to be sure, you will still be required to have that information available for all day. a breakdown of where that number came from, as with all of the entries on your tax form. The other major change for this,
What was that, Gina?
the other major change was the G5, right? So
Yes.
we added that line. You want to speak to the 31, 32? I can't see. 33, sales to consumers.
Yeah, on the G5, it disposed of other than above, and that is for that. Then we have 30A, which is the winery internet sales to Maryland residents. So that is your DW sales.
So for the wineries that are doing direct shipping, I think you would all remember that you were putting that with your G5. You were combining it there because you're actually, it's non-taxable on the 34 because you're paying that taxes on your DW 315. So we've separated that line out. So your G5 will now be those other things that occur and that are not otherwise listed in the other schedules. And we will make a special line for, or we've included a line specifically for your internet sales, which is your direct wine shipping.
Yes.
So when an additional schedule will be required with this reporting. So I'm sorry, this question is saying what on what form 034 line are out of state wine shipments reported?
That is still your Schedule E. On your 34-1, you would just mark it as Schedule E.
So we're including all of your out of state dispositions on your Schedule E. The internet sales are specifically for your Maryland. I think that answered that. So not an additional schedule, but the schedules that are currently in place. On the 3 PDF form, I could not enter the field in my PDF form. This is a technical issue. It says the 03, maybe it's the 30 PDF.
It looks like when you go down further, it says 34.
Oh, the 34. Okay.
You should be able to online enter your figures.
Yes. Yeah, the PDFs are intended for you to be able to input your information and then print out your form or save your form.
Hey, Michelle, can you increase the size of your form at the top so you can see the lines?
Is that better?
Yeah, I want to see that.
We have another brewery question. How do breweries address internet sales? A direct shipment to customers is now allowed. So this, I might need Lou to pipe in here, Michelle, Denise. I'm thinking that this is the temporary during the state of emergency. An exception for the pandemic state of emergency, that we have relaxed those rules to allow your businesses to continue to function and meet the customer's needs. That is going to be considered in your taproom sales. You would account for those and report those. Any additions to that, ladies or Lou?
I don't have any.
Okay. Multiple schedules can be entered on the 43-1. I'm going to go with that's the 34-1, perhaps. That is the multiple schedules. For the 34, we streamlined, and the only ones that we did not include in that were the ones that were completely formatted differently. That it includes recapitulation and the samples.
Yes, correct. The samples are their own. Here's the recapitulation, and here is the samples.
So those forms remained the same, and we consolidated the other schedules to the one. The form has 2 line 30s. Is that an error or intentional? I think it maybe have been too small. Is that the 30 and the 30A?
Yes,
That's an alignment in the way that works. It's the line 30 and the line 30A, and
correct.
it's intentional to put those close to each other because the wineries had been putting their direct shipments in the line 30. And we're now making it easy for you to see that we just want you to break that out and put it in 30A instead. So for many of you, you may have nothing in the G5 because the G5 is that exceptional. It's something that's not being accounted for in your other dispositions. So before direct shipping was available, you usually didn't have anything in that category unless something out of the ordinary occurred. And then once direct shipping came in and we were accounting for it here, that's where we decided to place it. And so in this revision, we said, let's give it its own category since we are still watching those sales, or reporting those sales. Okay. Shipping an exception. Well, it came about in this manner. That is a regulatory piece, and you're talking to the not makers of the regulations, but the compliance and revenue administrators of the regulations that are in place. So again, your words are being heard, and certainly something that could possibly be considered. Okay, report with time. Sales out of state to individuals reported on Schedule E. Sales out of state to individuals will be reported on Schedule E. The instructions say manufacturers, wholesalers, and dispensaries, not individuals. On the 034.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so on the new form instructions, if you go down, is that on the 31 or 30?
Oh, this is the 30. Well, if they were talking about the 34, it would be on the 34-1. Were they talking about breweries for the 30?
There's also an instruction for that line on the primary form, and this is for the schedule itself. And each one of those instructions may be updated with the instructions this gentleman is looking at, or person. So it's, and I believe in the regulatory language is to authorize recipients outside of the state of Maryland. So separate sheets for each state or the District of Columbia shipped into. So on the updated instructions, it's not specifying manufacturers, wholesalers, and dispensary, I believe.
We still have the instructions on the 034.
Mm-hmm.
We just put something together for the 034 one because there were complaints that there wasn't anything following with the 034 one.
Probably can't have too many instructions though, right? And they mirror each other. They're saying the same thing, I believe, if you're looking at
Yes.
the line down there for line 24, 1 and 2, Schedule E. So somehow it's whatever the person is looking at, it's no longer in the current instructions for the form. Okay. Are shipments reported differently if the customer orders from the website?
No. Oh, they're not reported differently, but if they're talking about alcohol e-file, they're still the old forms.
So the revisions that we are discussing with you today is not changing, except for separating it to a different line. So the way that you have reported your customers that have, say, ordered your product from your website in the past, you will continue to do that. If we're talking about the shipping that is being done, and thank you, Justin Hayes, via the authority of the executive order by the governor, if those shipments are what you're talking about for the breweries, that would go on your room. And for the wineries, it stays the same. And for the distilleries, it stays in your activity, your sales to consumer, your G7 sales to consumers. Did we, yes, I believe we covered that the breweries would do it in their taproom sales for now for any internet orders. Okay. Another thought, going back to the quarterly reporting question, you had mentioned that our state forms are no longer reliant on the TTV reports. Will we still be required to send copies of our TTV reports with our Maryland reports? Michelle?
Once they're filling out the new forms, we do not need the federal returns, and we do not need duplicates either.
Current filing frequency for breweries continues to be monthly at this time. Breweries are required to file monthly on the 10th.
Yes.
Okay. One of our licensees submitted an application for a direct shippers permit back in March and got the form returned. This might be something we might need to address with you directly. I don't know that we have anyone from licensing right now to speak to this, but I'm not sure who that person is, but if you could reach out to us at licensing or even one of us here on the call, we can probably address what you're looking at more directly. It sounds like you were told that because of the executive order, that those authorizations were given to you, and it sounds like you need something for a third-party company. At this point in time, based on the governor's executive order, you do have that authorization. So please contact us so that we can help you give whatever information you need to your other third party here.
Gina, a little further down, Olu responded saying that no active direct wine shipper permits have been canceled and that the renewal process has not been started yet. I'm guessing he said process, but I'm guessing that means started yet.
Okay. And this person is saying it was a new application, not a renewal. Right. So even with that new application, you have this authorization at this time, but it seems like they need something in paper. So like I said, if they could reach out, we could probably facilitate that in some way. I'm not sure what exactly they're looking for, but it would be easier. That's a one-off that we could talk to you directly and help you with that. Okay.
Suggest if they have any contact information on the correspondence they received to try reaching out via that source first.
Yes.
If there's anything on the letter.
Definitely.
Yes. So Lewis, shipment to individuals, line 24 is for out-of-state dealers, not consumers. Where should the sales be reported? So help us out here. Line 24 is going to be on the 34. So we are talking about distilled spirits or wine. So the shipments to consumers, that is of relevance here is the Maryland consumers. The shipments to out of state, be it a consumer or any other dealer, wholesaler, retailer that you're dealing with out of state, that doesn't fall under our regulatory power. We do our regulations and our, I guess, partnerships. And Lou, you probably could pipe in here on that as far as how that impacts what our licensees do. But so when you're talking about out of state, I just wanted to be clear, this person seems to be concerned that we're talking about dealers, not consumers. So the individuals that you are allowed to ship to in other states is regulated by the other states. If that has been permitted for them to receive, then be able to put that on your line for our brands, because we're asking you to confirm for us that the product left the state of Maryland. So yes, we are saying that if it's going out of state, those regulations are going to be mandated by the state, the receiving state. I hope that's answering the question for this person. Please, again, reach out if that's not clear. Okay. The new activity during COVID for me, M4 license holder, internet delivery sales within the state needs to fill out new line 30 schedule G5. The M4s, a lot of our M4s have the DW. So that is your internet delivery sales within the state. That will now be on line 30A, no longer on the schedule G5. How do the wineries report mead production and sales?
I thought that was on.
So Maryland has determined that we will
That was beer.
mead production and tax it at the beer rate. We've changed that. Wineries, wineries that are producing mead, this is moving really quickly here, scrolling down here on me. So the wineries that are producing mead and continue to produce mead, I would need to check this again with our licensing and registration group to confirm that they're making this change for breweries, or your ability to process this as a brewery. At this point in time, we have included the mead production on our brewery form. So for wineries that are producing mead that have been processing it the same way, or I'm sorry, reporting it with their other wine sales, that continues. And we'll need to investigate and get back to you on the changeover for those wineries that are solely doing mead and whether or not they're properly licensed, and maybe they should be changing that. But some of them did do that. We did have some people that changed from one license to another. They can, so we have a contact for the licensing and registration. Okay. Joe was saying we have a couple minutes left. If you have more questions, to email us at compass@marylandtaxes.gov.
And Lou put on there, we have made them get brewery license for the mead.
Okay. Okay, well, there's, okay. Sorry, Neil asked the question, we signed 34 under penalty of perjury. How can we sign if we know we are violating the form instructions? You need to modify the form. Reporting of each out-of-state consumer sale is very onerous. Recommend just a keying in of total and maintain records at winery for audit. We will definitely take that under consideration. Again, I think that the forms that the instructions on the current form 34 does not specify the out-of-state recipient category. We will look into that a little bit further. We would certainly not want you to sign something that was incorrectly, improperly filed. So if we have a typo in there, thank you very much we'll take another look at that and make sure that we get that corrected. And we can take under consideration here, you're recommending that you have for example, if you're using something like a shipping company, a Vino shipper type entity that would have all of your out-of-state sales to consumers put into one space, we will look at how you might report that to us. And as you're stating, having the records for audit would be sufficient. But let us get back to you on that as we look at all the implications of you filing under those circumstances. Okay. What is the best contact for e-file issues?
Denise Davis email and Miriam's email. And we also have the alcohol e-file email. That would probably be better.
Right.
Once you're in the alcohol.
What is that called?
Alcohol at alcohol at marylandtaxes.gov.
Alcohol at marylandtaxes.gov. We missed somebody here. Hold on. What schedule is completed as backup for the line 30A? The line 30A is your internet sales. Denise, I'm thinking that we didn't have a schedule for that.
No, we did not. It used to be included on the G5, but it looks like we've just added it as a fill-in.
Okay, so they're going to key in your total, and then you'll have your backup available for audit, which generally be all your shipping documentation from whatever source you use.
If you're looking at the front sheet, if it does not have in parentheses a schedule number or number and letter and number, then it's just a fill-in.
A good note. So no schedules due if there's not one listed. Joe said that that's going to be our time up for our final question.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming and let people know that we will be posting when we have a link for this up online, and we're also going to produce a transcript with the questions and answers that we will also send out. We'll hope to get that out by the end of next week. And again, if you have any further questions, you have a couple of email contacts, please feel free to use them. And thank you again for joining us. And we may do another one of these in a couple months as we get more feedback from you and we see how things are going. So thank you again. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Denise and Lanita.
You're welcome.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.